We received a commission from our client to create our second ever resin and wood exterior door. If you guys have been following our channel for any length of time, you'll remember around the end of last year, we built our first ever resin and wood exterior door. And if I'm being honest, it was a little bit of an experiment. The resins that we use are very tough and very high quality, but haven't exactly been tested for exterior environments. So we weren't sure how this door was going to last, and that door went in, I think, in October. It went through a very cold winter up here in Canada and then followed by a very hot summer. I think there was fluctuations of over 60 degrees Celsius that this door faced, and there was absolutely zero issues with the epoxy, with the wooden components of the door, or anything on the door for that matter. So after that first experience, it gave us a lot of confidence to now begin offering this more regularly to a larger group of clients. First off, for this door, what you're seeing us do is gluing up our ash panels that are going to act as the exterior and interior skins of this door. Since the client requested horizontal grain going across the entire panel, requires a little bit different construction than our typical stile and rail construction. The core for this door is created from a microlam beam, and that is a material that is extremely stable. It's meant for exterior environments, and we don't have to worry about it warping. Once we've created our core with that microlam beam, we then press on the solid ash skins to the exterior and interior of the door. So all of the exposed wood that you and our customer are going to see is that ash, and any of that microlam beam has been completely hidden on the inside of the door. A little bit more about the design of this door before we get into the rest of it. So the wooden components that you're seeing here right now, like I mentioned, they're microlam beam core with a solid ash skin. All of these are going to get stained to a solid black color completely evenly. Then we're pouring a resin and wood panel, which will go in that little notch there. And the outside style of this door is going to be sprayed in a solid brass coating. So it's going to be a very unique door with many different combinations of materials, and something that we haven't done before for a customer. Once we've got all the components for the door put together and cut to size, we can then begin marking out for our hinges. So because of the weight of this door, we can't just use any old hinges. We're using hinges from Tectus, which are very expensive. I think our cost in them is over $300 per hinge, but they're highly adjustable, they're very strong, and they have a nice clean look. And now we can begin working on the most interesting feature of this door. So this client has selected Buckeye Burl as their wood species, and we first start off by flattening both sides of this burl. One thing here is the pieces of wood that we actually require are much, much thinner than the thickness of the burl that you're seeing here now. So once we have our flat surfaces on both sides, we're going to resaw this piece thinner to get the thickness that we need. To successfully build these door panels in a way that they're going to stand up to the elements, we don't have any exposed wood on the surfaces of these panels. After doing our initial pour, you'll see later that we're going to add an extra layer of epoxy on both the top and bottom, so this chunk of burl will be fully encapsulated. So once the burls have been resawed and all cleaned up, as you can see, Jack and John are just using some silicone to get these pieces secured into the mold and to hold them in place for the first of 3 pours on these panels. This client has selected a smoky gray resin for their resin color, because it's going to slightly obscure the look through the door, but not fully stop light from coming through. So you should be able to roughly see figures and shapes through this door panel, but you shouldn't be able to see detail like read any words or see any of the objects inside this client's house. In order to achieve this color, we're using our Black Forest metallic pigments, and that also brings up another exciting point, is that we just released a bunch of brand new color options for our Black Forest pigments. And if you're watching this YouTube video on the day that it came out, we have one more day of our end of summer sale, and part of that sale is a buy one get one free on our Black Forest pigments. And I believe the color that we would have used here is, you guessed it, smoky gray. For the resin on this piece, that brings up another important point. We're using our Black Forest deep resin, and our resin has been specifically formulated for these types of applications. Now, clearly, I'm a little biased because it is our resin and we sell it, so obviously I want you guys to buy it. But I hope that you can trust us, because we clearly work on very high-end projects for very demanding clients, and we cannot use anything but the highest quality materials when it comes to our build. And that's a large part of the reason why we even decided to have a resin formulated for us in the first place. After many experiments using almost every brand of epoxy out there, we always found that we had a slight struggle being able to pour the volumes we wanted, specifically the thicknesses, without issues of overheating. And we also found issues of the strength and the hardness of the resin, because it's a very fine line between getting a resin that dries hard enough so that you can't dent the surface, but still has elasticity so it can account for expansion and contraction in the wood. So what you just saw Jack do was pour that additional layer of epoxy on the top side of this panel that I mentioned earlier. That, like I mentioned, is what is going to allow this panel to withstand the elements of the exterior environment. And now we need to repeat that whole process over again. So Jack pops the piece out of the form, gets it down to our thickness sander, which we will soon be replacing with a fancy machine from SCM. And then once he's got that freshly poured surface flattened through the sander, we can head back upstairs, put this thing back in a mold, seal everything up with silicone, and pour our final layer of resin on the other side of this panel to fully seal everything in. So as you can tell, this process is a little repetitive and also quite time consuming, but it's a critical part of this process in order to make sure we have a panel that's actually going to last. Something you may not have considered, because we're using our Black Forest deep resin for each layer of this, that resin has a 1-week cure time. So when you're looking at, let's say, the schedule of this job, just the resin pours for the panel took 3 weeks. That doesn't even take into account the prep of the wood, the construction of the rest of the door, or anything. So for 3 whole weeks, we had one of our pour tables tied up just to create this panel. Once the panel is cut down to its final size, it's time to begin the sanding and polishing process, which is going to restore this panel to its original clarity and really allow you to see all of the detail in the burl and the resin. To do this, we're using our Mirka sander with Mirka abrasives, and we begin by sanding the entire surface up to 4,000 grit. That gives us a good baseline to begin our polishing after we've reached that point. The polishing process consists of using automotive polishing compounds on a rotary polisher. We have experimented between orbital polishers and rotary polishers, and in our opinion, we just find we get much better results from the rotary polisher. The orbital ones tend to, in our opinion, just not be quite as aggressive, and they just don't remove as much material effectively. Just like the resin pour, this process is very time consuming. We start at 120 grit, we go to 150, 180, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, and then 3 different steps of polishing compounds. So if I haven't lost your interest by now with all those numbers, here is a look at the panel finally getting some of its clarity back. So you can see that you get that slight metallic texture from the smoky gray resin we used, and you can also start to see the edges of those burl through the surface, which is something that was really important to this customer. Not only has this client commissioned us to create the door for their home, but we're also creating the matching jamb that the door is going to hang within. So similar to the door, the jamb is constructed from entirely all solid ash, and we've used absolutely no composite materials. Now, this has become something that's a little controversial. We get a lot of client requests to do these solid black stains. First, it started on our X bases where all the clients wanted them in black, but now it's sort of transferring over to the doors where we're doing them. And personally, I think they look really nice, but we tend to trigger a lot of people. They think that we're ruining wood, and we get these comments that why would you stain such a beautiful wood dark black like this? So I don't really know what to say to you guys. You know, if you want a door and you want to leave it clear, we're happy to do that for you. But most of our clients these days do have a preference towards this solid black stain. So I'd be curious to hear what all of you think. So if you want to leave a comment and let us know if you're on Team Black or Team Clear, we'd be curious to hear. So when it comes to a finish to protect these exterior doors, we have done some experimenting. You know, we tried with different manufacturers, potentially coming up with our own exterior oil, which is something we would still like to do in the future. But honestly, we really like the Osmo exterior oil. Their 420 UV oil does an amazing job of finishing these doors, and in our experience does a very good job with protection. So once Curtis has coated all those surfaces with the Osmo oil, and if you guys are interested in picking up a can of the Osmo, we do sell this on our website, so you can check that out. And we've even got free shipping over $300 across North America. And once the oil is finished, we can begin installing the very unique brass style onto this door. So while it may look like this style is solid brass, it's not. It's coated with a product called Verimetal that we had done by our friends at Jeco. Essentially what Verimetal is it's a powdered metal that then gets suspended in a sprayable resin, which is then sprayed onto the surface, sanded back, and can be polished just like a real metal. I was a little skeptical when I first heard about this product. I thought it was going to be more of an imitation type metal, but when you feel something that's finished with this Verimetal, if you had your eyes closed, you would think it's real metal. It's cold, it's even metallic. You can get magnets to stick to some of the different finishes. It's just a very, very unique product that's allowing us to incorporate metal designs in ways that we had never really imagined. So Lecek and Curtis used solid maple hardwood dowels in addition to Type Bond 3 to secure that style onto the door. Once the style's been glued on, we have some matching brass inlays that are going to go across the horizontal profiles, and those get secured into place with silicone. Finally, another extremely important step to this door is the application of our Black Forest ceramic coating. We always put our ceramic on our interior projects, but it's almost more so important on the exterior products because you don't want water to sit on this surface and start building up. And you also want some additional UV protection, which our ceramic coating happens to have. So by using this, you'll greatly delay any fading that's caused by the sun. You're going to reduce your water damage, and just the overall look and feel of your door is going to be greatly, greatly enhanced. And although we are the original woodworking ceramic coating, our ceramic is compatible on pretty much any surface you would find around your home. You can use it on metal, not just coated metal like we've shown here. So what I've seen clients really like that for is their stainless steel appliances, because then you don't get as many fingerprints, you don't get scratches. It can go on your granite countertops. Pretty much any kind of wood, regardless of the finish, as long as it's cured, the ceramic can go over. So it's kind of this do-it-all protective coating for anything around your house, which is what we want people to understand more so, is that you're not just limited to these tables with this ceramic.
Okay, well, we're here at Pigeon Lake, Alberta today. We're installing another one-of-a-kind door that we made for one of our clients up here with their beautiful summer vacation home. You can follow me back in here. Take a look at what we got going on. We're just getting our tools set up here now. It's always takes half the shop to get everything going in here. And we're going to be putting an absolutely stunning door into this opening here. I previously came out and applied what we call the stucco strips. Lets the builder finish with the exterior surfaces right up to where our brick mold's going to go, and our door fits right in here. We've installed this previously. Follow me in here, sir, and just to show you what we're dealing with today. This is the view out the back of the house. So at the end of the day, the contractor said it's no problem. We might jump in off the end of the dock here into the lake. It looks like we have to saw the plywood flush.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So
we'll do that from a sawzall
you
on
can
the
only
outside.
need this area.
That's it.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're pretty tight. Yeah. Okay. No shoes, please. One person on the end. Garrett.
So if you watched the first resin door, you might remember Garrett, the guy in the gray shirt right now, had a brush taken from him, and it looks like we struck again. He was just trying to help, and we yanked this piece of wood right out of his hands. Poor Garrett. Once we've got our opening prepped in terms of the size, we can then begin laying down our blue skin, which is going to allow us to completely waterproof this opening. So the blue skin gets applied to all the exposed wooden surfaces where our jam's going to sit, just so we don't get any standing water sitting on the wooden framing components of this house. Then comes the moment of truth, time to see if the jam we constructed is actually going to fit in this hole, or if we need to go back to the shop and redo everything. And fortunately, since this isn't our first rodeo, we managed to get this fit inside, and from there we can use some 4-inch number 12 wood screws to screw the jam directly into the side of the home. Then we can install our Tectus hinges that I mentioned earlier in the video. Again, these are very, very expensive hinges, so it's a little nerve-wracking to make sure you don't mark anything or put any scratches on them. And then from there, we can get this door stood up, get the hinges mounted onto the jam, and then we can start working on some of our finishing touches. Now, the door may look pretty right now, but we've still got some pretty important steps to go before we're finished here. So we add some shims into the outside perimeter of the jamb where it meets the home, and that just kind of shores everything up and holds it sturdy so there's no flex or deflection. And then we add some spray foam insulation also into that entire perimeter, just so there's no draft or heat or moisture that can come through. From there, we can start working on the matching casing that's going on this door. So this casing is relatively simple. It's just blackened ash to match the rest of the door. And we use our miter saw to cut a little 45-degree angle that allows all those pieces to fit perfectly into place.
All right, well, sometimes we never know what these things are going to look like. This door looked really cool in the shop, just setting it up, but we've got this kind of a classic install here with decorations that are completely matching all of the features of the door. And man, I can't say enough. Again, we've created another masterpiece here. We want to thank our customers for giving us the opportunity to build these kind of products and install them into absolutely beautiful homes.